Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are back with another of these brand new Mattel Jurassic World Mayhem mix-up figures. This time we have the Stegosaurus, and this is the final figure, as far as I'm aware, of Wave 1. I know there is another wave that has been teased, but when it comes to what you see on the box here, this is the final of these newest releases. You can see the images here for the Stegosaurus, also the parts down there. As you turn it to the side, you can see actually a shot of the T-Rex over there. And then when you turn it around to the other side, kind of like a little checklist of the other figures that are in the wave. And then here on the back, again, some more images of the Stego, along with a teaser down here of the other dinosaurs that are also available. So we're going to go ahead, pop this box open, and check it out. So, of course, we have a whole bunch of little baggies here, and a whole bunch of pieces included. The very first piece is the primary body here of the Stegosaurus. Then we've got, in the next one, the head and tail of, looks like just the standard version of the Stegosaurus. Then we have some limbs and an alternate head, which does look very different from the first head that we had. Then the next one is definitely a very large tail. I can feel the thagomizers. I knew that, so that's again a little bit of a, I guess, hybrid or mutated version. I'm not really sure what they're going for as far as that goes. We've got some more legs, the rear legs, and then another big piece here. Ooh, we've got a totally different body, so that's pretty interesting. It's almost, if we just had more legs, you could almost have, again, two Stegosaurus complete in this release here with the Stego, because you have two bodies, and that's the first time in these releases that we've actually had two actual torsos for the figures. But we're going to go ahead and assemble one, and then we'll check it out. So here is our Stegosaurus, and I think it looks pretty cool, actually. It almost has a little bit of a throwback when it comes to the colors, looking kind of similar to like an older Kenner-style Stego, which is pretty cool. Again, not quite exactly the same, but sort of when it comes to like the tones and stuff. But you can see, again, this one does look really neat, except for the fact that mine has a little sloppiness right here on the beak, which is unfortunate. But it also looks like it has, oh yeah, it does. It has an articulated jaw. Crazy. The Hammond Collection version of the Stegosaurus didn't even have an articulated jaw, but this one does. But you can see inside the mouth, again, you've got a nice reddish tone in there like we did for all of them, actually. You have a gray for the beak. The beak has a very pointy look right there on the top part of the beak. The mouth closes pretty nicely as well. You've got an orange eye and a dark green for the majority of the head. Again, not much when it comes to like texturing or scales or fine detail at all. You also start to see the plates pick up on the top of the head of the dinosaur rather than moving into the neck. So although it's almost like your classic traditional style Stegosaurus, it's also still a little bit more exaggerated than your standard Stegosaurus. You do have neck articulation up and down and can swivel. Again, the standard articulation for these guys. As you move back, you actually start to see that dark green disappear, because then the body becomes a much lighter green. But I like how they still have like the darker green kind of moving along and like splattering down. It looks pretty neat when it comes to the way that they've colored the figure. Still nice and natural, I would think, for a Stegosaurus. You have leg articulation forward and back, can also wiggle out away from the body a little bit. As you move down through the legs almost look like stone. Like it almost looks like a stone statue with the way it is sculpted out. You have the nails, again, sculpted out but unpainted, but they still have a really nice gloss coat. I don't know why they don't just paint them rather than just giving them gloss coats. As you move back to the rear leg, you can get a good feel for the musculature and everything. Again, looking very stone-like or robotic. You have the leg articulation forward and back, also can wiggle again out away from the body. Same style of foot for the dinosaur, which looks extremely robotic. It almost looks like a cyborg Stegosaurus, but again, you have that gloss coat for the nails. And then you lead up and out into the tail, and as you lead out, you start to see that dark green kind of splatter and creep its way back in. I like that even in the areas up here where there's not a whole lot of the dark green extending down, you still see it kind of splattering along as you lead out, which looks pretty cool. And then again, you also have the thagomizers and everything as you lead out here to the end of the tail. You can see a little bit of like a gloss coat to certain areas, like the head doesn't doesn't have it. The Thagomisers don't have it, but this area of the dark green has a shiny look to it, and you can also see it extend up here. But then the upper part where the plates are, that does not have it either. So it's weird how some areas are a little glossy, some areas are not. The Thagomisers themselves also kind of feature some detail up there, which looks pretty cool. As far as the tail articulation, you can also swivel that area, but it looks like, yeah, you can swivel this last little section as well. So this one might be the most articulated of these figures overall. But it is a pretty cool looking Stego, honestly. Again, fitting right there in the same style as the Extractors figures, like we've mentioned a few times in these reviews, but also in the same style of the other ones that have come before it with the T-Rex and Dilophosaurus. So I'm going to go ahead, pull these parts off, and then go ahead and organize the more exaggerated version. So there is our second version of the Stegosaurus, which looks drastically different from the first. Now, on this one, the only pieces that are reused from the first Stegosaurus are the legs. Everything else is different on this. So you can see the head sculpt looks really quite different from the first version. You have a whole lot more plates kind of running down even into the snout up and over the top of the head, and then they really start to pick up in a big way as you lead back. I don't know who designed these guys, but they were really thinking outside the box when it comes to these figures. But you can also see a really nicely glossed dark gray eye for the dinosaur. You as well have a dark gray for the beak. Again, do we have an articulated jaw? Yes, it looks like we do, but it doesn't want to open. There we go. So we've got the articulated jaw. Again, the red tone for the inside of the mouth, just like we've seen on all of them the entire way through. The jaw's a little bit stiffer on this one than the others. You can see neck articulation-wise. Oh, do we have the same articulation? Boy, it's actually hard to move this one because the head is kind of sharp. It looks like we should. I see the joint right there, but it's actually not really moving up and down. I don't know if it just needs to be warmed up. It can swivel really nicely, but it doesn't really seem to have much in the way of up and down motion. The other one had way better neck articulation than this one does. But as you lead back, again, you start to pick up a dark brown that moves along the top. You can already see the dark brown pick up in those early plates. You have a light gray for the majority of the head, and then you see that light gray kind of follow along here. And then you have a green for the body as you move down. You can kind of see like wrinkles sort of down here on the underside. So just some fine detail. Again, the legs we've already taken a look at with the first version. Leading down, you see more of that kind of like pointy, jagged style to the figure. The plates are absolutely gigantic. I like the fact that you still have kind of like cracks and crevices within the plates on the Stegosaurus, because it just adds at least a little bit of like realism kind of to the figure, just a little bit of life to what otherwise looks like a very mechanical Stegosaurus. As you lead down here, you have some more bumpy areas here, kind of like ridges that follow along the side of the dinosaur. You still see more of the dark brown and light gray that actually leads out here into the tail before the dark brown overtakes the tail, and this one actually has painted Thagomisers. We did not have painted Thagomisers on the first version, which is unfortunate, but at least looks pretty good when it comes to this style Stegosaurus. Again, the sculpt of the Thagomisers looks just as jagged and crazy as everything else. One thing that's interesting though, again, the legs are going to articulate the same way. We saw the neck didn't articulate all that much unless it really needs to be warmed up. It kind of looks like it should, but I don't want to force it. So I think you could probably get the neck articulating in a similar way to what we saw in the first one. But one thing is for sure, when it comes to the tail, first of all, it's falling off, but you can still swivel the tail, but you can't swivel this area. So on the other one, you actually had a little extra articulation on the tail, whereas the other one didn't have painted Thagomisers, but this one does. So they both have their advantages and disadvantages, I guess. Even the insides of the plates have the same style of detail, though. But again, the Stegosaurus is definitely another unique-looking version of this dinosaur, no doubt about that. And we are going to measure this one because it's the tallest of the two. So let's go ahead, readjust our camera a little bit, and then get a measurement, because lengthwise for the Stegosaurus, you are looking at, actually, if you go to the tip of the Thagomizer, about 7 inches or just shy of 18 centimeters, and for a height, about just a hair under 4 3/4 inches or 12 centimeters. So it's definitely the biggest of these figures so far. And for a size comparison to show you that, there is the Dilophosaurus from the line, which you can see is definitely a little bit smaller than our Stegosaurus. And then again, the same case when it comes to the T-Rex. You can see those massive plates on the back of the Stegosaurus really make this thing look, again, pretty big next to these other figures. I didn't feel like we needed a comparison with Mr. Papa T-Rex or anything with this figure, because at this point I think we've established roughly what the size of these guys are. But I did want to show you the fact that when it comes to height, this Stegosaurus is definitely taller than the others. And also, we are at the point now where we have all of them out of the packaging, so you can kind of take a look at all of them and swap their pieces out, so you can make crazy hybrids if you want. One thing you will see though, when you pop the pieces in, they don't fit perfectly when it comes to like the overall size and style of the anatomy of each dinosaur, but they do pop in, and that's what's important, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. So you can again make all sorts of crazy mutated hybrid dinosaurs in your collection if you choose to. And another thing that's interesting is, since you already have like most of the parts of the Stegosaurus kind of already used on the other Stego, you still have like a neck, a body, and a tail on the other version, which means you can then take some of the extra pieces of your other dinosaurs, like the legs of the Dilophosaurus and T-Rex, and create some of the craziest looking mutated weird hybrid dinosaurs you can imagine, which means that once you actually have all three of these guys, it gives you 4 figures overall, which is really cool because, again, it's a little bit more bang for your buck. So this Mattel Jurassic World Mayhem mix-up Stegosaurus is actually pretty cool, honestly. I think it's even more fun than I was expecting. Out of the 3, it was the one that I was kind of looking forward to the least, with the T-Rex being the one I was looking forward to the most. And I feel like most people feel that way because everybody loves T-Rex, but actually having the Stegosaurus out now, it's definitely one of my favorite of the group. I think whether you go for like the standard Stegosaurus or that gigantic kind of mutated hybrid version, the gigantic plate version, it's really cool and does look really fun, and again fits the overall style and theme of the figures as a whole. I also really quite like the colors that they've included. There's definitely decent paintwork on these guys, and you know, nail paint is really the only thing missing as far as that goes. And again, articulation is pretty decent for the Stegosaurus, having the most articulation out of any of the figures in the line, even including jaw articulation for the Stegosaurus, which we didn't even have on the Hammond Collection version. So again, another figure that in my opinion is definitely worth picking up and adding to your collection. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to where you can pick it up on Entertainment Earth. So check that link, go grab it, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.